everyone, and welcome to our study on the woman in the Bible called Cherished by the King. And we're busy with the unnamed woman in the Bible, and we saw last week from the story of the woman who anointed Jesus' feet in Luke chapter 7, and how her story is one of the many stories told in the Gospel of Luke of specifically women having an encounter with Christ. And just before we study, or before I talk to you about today's woman, whose story you can find in Luke chapter 13, I wanted to read you something. And this is the promise that we are all looking forward to, the Sabbath rest that we are looking forward to enter into. And I want to read for you. It says from Revelation chapter 21 verse 2, I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and he will be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things have passed away. See, this is our inheritance. This is what we are looking forward to one day. This is our Sabbath rest. And Sabbath rest means a time to be made whole. But it's more than that. It's almost like the full culmination of salvation, the end of all things. You know, it is said in the Bible that God created the world in 6 days and then he rested on the seventh. After all the work has been done, he rested on the seventh day. And that is also why he gave this ordinance to his people, so that they would also rest on the seventh day, just as God rested. But the ultimate rest is receiving the promise of God and receiving his kingdom and resting in the fact that no work is necessary anymore. Everything has been done so that we can live in his presence and be with him. Now in Luke chapter 13, you see the story of the bent over woman, and Luke specifically says that this woman was not because of old age that she was bent over, but she was afflicted by an evil spirit. And this evil spirit had been afflicting her for 18 years. So for 18 years, and with everyone knowing that it was an evil spirit that bent this woman over, the very fact that she was at synagogue that day was a miracle, because she would have been ostracized by her community. She would not have been part of the conversations. She would be starved for fellowship and for connection with other people, because they would literally shun her. But she was there at synagogue on the Sabbath day of rest to hear whoever was going to preach. And good for her, because that day in Luke chapter 13, Jesus was the guest speaker at synagogue. And he saw her and he called her forward in front of everyone, and he healed her, and her back straightened out, and it says she praised God. See, that woman went to synagogue on the day of rest, on the day of Sabbath rest, to be with God, to be in his presence. And what she found there was God, and she was in the Son of God's presence. And he healed her of her affliction. And she received what the Sabbath was made for wholeness, for restoration, for the culmination of the kingdom of God and of his promises to be fulfilled. So I want to ask you that when you enter the rest, think of it as this. Think of it as the culmination of being with God, being in His presence, and receiving from Him whatever you need, whatever need you have. In your study this week, you'll read a bit more about her story and the background and the Sabbath day. But today with the video, I just want to ask you to think of being in the Lord's presence and receiving from Him and entering into His rest. Until next time, goodbye.